Every few years, I feel like I'm just starting a new beginning. Like last year, when I was 64, I decided to go back to school and take a postgrad diploma in film scoring and orchestration. And it was pretty heavy going. The first couple of modules, I almost dropped out until my son told me, I told him that he was never supposed to give up. So then I had to heed his second-hand advice to me. But yeah, so I felt it was a new beginning. So now I can do everything. I can just compose if I want to. I can orchestrate the entire orchestra if I want to. So that was a new beginning. And then the work that's come, I've just got a commission to write a large ensemble piece for the Singapore Armed Forces Band, which the central band. So that takes about 2 months to compose and orchestrate. Next thing you know, the universe starts to send me work that I now can say yes to. Now I find myself being very interested in classical music. Again, I'm a classically trained pianist, but then too lazy to really work hard at it, and ended up deciding to expend my energies to become the best jazz pianist that I can be. But I don't think I'll ever be a classical level pianist, but I think I will be able to soon start writing for classical orchestras as well. People look at my Facebook and they say they get tired just seeing how I work. But then I have a lot of lazy moments, really, where I do a perfect impersonation of a sloth, but I don't post my slothful moments, so people don't see that I do get enough rest, and I do in Netflix and chill and stuff. I have to, because actually I worked so hard that in the end of 2023 I was in Barcelona for a holiday and collapsed and went to hospital with intestinal bleeding of all things. And it was just because I was pushing myself too hard. I thought I learned my lesson from a previous hospital encounter at the end of the 80s for exhaustion, but I got to be respectful now of this machinery that's now 65 years old and give it rest and give myself rest and mental rest. When I first started, there was just a few of us. Firstly, my mentor, Luis Soliano, who at 82 is still at it, still performs. And we sometimes still perform together. Back then, I think there was like 30 good musicians, musicians that were in the SPC orchestra, and a few of us out there in the private scene, that were doing it. But now I would say there's easily 200 decent and more than decent jazz musicians in Singapore. We have more high-level, international-level jazz musicians in our scene than we've ever had in our history. So, which is a wonderful thing to see. Sometimes people say a lot of it's my effort, but I think it's not so much that. People go and study, let's say Pepperdine, and they listen to all this jazz, and they come back and then they listen to jazz all the time. So the children grow up liking jazz, and once in a while you find that they actually don't want to just listen passively, they actually want to learn how to play jazz. So we've got some really, really talented musicians in their 40s like Chok Korong and Wei Siang Tan, who are just amazing, how well they play. I mean, and they not only after they studied for their masters in New York, stayed on for a couple of years and were in the scene playing, at the Blue Note and all that kind of thing. So we've got, things that I only aspire or dreamt about, that to them is just like run of the mill now. And not just the musicians that are studying or living overseas, but the ones that are here are very proficient. They are very proactive, create their own scenes, their own bands. If you look at some of the interview videos that I did on TV 20, 25 years ago, I was very quiet, very subdued, very shy. And these guys in their 20s are speaking. Firstly, that the education has become so much better, so their English is much better. They can articulate much better. So not only great young and middle-aged musicians in their 40s and 50s, but also people with the ability to articulate what is it that they do in their craft. So that's where it is now. I think, things are only going to get better, I think. Like now, the Jazz Association, we started 9 years ago. Now we have 10 scholars who studied and done their bachelor's or master's degree either in Singapore in the US. It's such a great escape, to play music, to sit on your instrument and to escape the world. I mean, most people escape the world by scrolling, but these musicians who do scroll, but they know how to put a phone down and just go and sit in their instrument and just spend 2 hours at a time. That kind of grit and determination and catharsis and discipline is there definitely, and maybe in greater amounts than when I was starting out. But to try and work on the scene and develop relationships, networks that would then allow them to play a leadership role. We're still encouraging people in their 40s and all to get into it. I mean, I never really got into it until I was about 35 or 40 years old. I knew how to. I guess I learned how to deal with people and potential clients during my 1981 to 1991 when I did jingles and I had to deal with sometimes difficult people or people who didn't know anything or acted like they did, and I still have to somehow not insult them, even though the insult is always at the tip of my tongue. In my book that I wrote, there's a chapter said, I talk about the Quincy Spielbergs of the advertising industry, people who thought they were both Quincy Jones and Steven Spielberg all rolled into one, but actually they didn't have any idea. And you had to still work with them, right? Because they're giving you a gig.